My
Yeah, we
friend
need to do
Brittany does
that.
videos. All right, and we are live. Welcome to Blondes, Books, and Campfires Tales. I am Bethany Stutzman. This is my co-host, Krystal Michelle. Say hi, Krystal.
Hi.
We are talking today about the classic 1998 movie Urban Legends. So this one's going to be super fun because it is just jam-packed full of urban legends.
Yeah, I like kept a running track of like all the urban legends even mentioned, not just the ones they actually go into.
Mm-hmm.
And like there was one that it had just never even clicked with me before that it was even
Ooh.
an urban legend, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh,
So it
all
was fun.
right.
Like,
Well, let's get to that in just a second. Do you want to talk about the premise of the movie?
yeah. So in case you are unaware on this 20-something-year-old movie, um, so, with Urban Legend, the whole premise is that there is a serial killer on a college campus, and they are killing people according to classic urban legends. So, literally, just right there in the title, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with it. What I like about this movie is I think it was a great movie. At the same time, it was so overshadowed by Scream because Scream came out like right before it. And I feel like they were both such good movies that this one just did not get the credit it should have gotten.
Yeah, I do think I always forget that they came out right around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that that's true. Like Scream, because it was like the new Wes Craven, and it broke all the rules,
Right.
Like, so everybody paid attention to that one, and this one was. I mean, it definitely. I think it like threw in some new things, but not in the same way as Scream did.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely don't think it got as much attention.
Yeah. And a special shout out to Mike. Mike, thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you here.
Hi, Mike.
Thank you for catching on to the right time. I posted the wrong time. Unlike all of the all of my social media, I posted the wrong time and I got called out. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry.
I think it's because you were trying to think of the time change, but being in Arizona and not dealing with the time change, it threw you off.
Yeah, that's
Because
what's
we are
tough. Because
still
like now I'm in Pacific time, whereas before I was in
mountain.
Mountain. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. And I always set my phone to Phoenix time, and then iPhone always switches it back so to some random time. I don't know.
I'm totally paying attention. I'm just also messaging. We were supposed to have a special guest again tonight, Brandy, but she's not going to be able to join. So I told her that,
Oh, okay.
yeah, she just got her kid to sleep, and he's sleeping right next to her, so she doesn't want to wake him up. I was like, well, if you want to watch, you can watch.
Understandable.
So
Well,
she might
for a
join
brief
as a watcher.
special guest, we got Indy right there.
Yeah, I mean, he always makes his cameo appearance every
He
show.
does. He does. He's like, Mom's talking again next to my bed. I got to figure out what's happening right now.
Yep. Yep.
Well, back to Urban Legends. I feel like this movie ages well because
Mhm.
there's so many. Every time you go back, there's something new. And then you find another actor or actress that you're like, holy crap, they're in this movie? Like, what?
Yeah. You're just like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that
Yeah,
this person was in it. Or, it's just been a while, and so it just reminds you of things. Or just, I mean, just seeing how some of the actors have like changed so much. Like Jared Leto,
exactly.
he's changed so much since this movie.
Well, and he denies this movie. If anyone talks to him about it, he like shuts him down. He says this was like a big mistake for him to be in it. Whereas I'm like, this kind of was one of the steps in your career to get you to where you were.
Yeah.
But whatever. To each their own, I guess.
He's ashamed of it. Like, I don't
I know.
understand why, but
Seriously. If
I mean,
anything, he should be ashamed of a Suicide Squad, but whatever. We'll just leave that alone. I loved Suicide Squad, but I felt like his character, he just I think he thought it was more than what it was. Like he thought he was going to be like this major standout like Joker character, and I'm like, you kind of got beat out by some true legends. So sorry.
yeah, like he thought he was going to be more the focus, and he wasn't.
Right. Mike wants to know what streaming platform it's currently on. I watched on Amazon, but I bought the movie, so
Yeah, I watched it on Amazon as well, but you can only rent or buy it. And I
mhm.
couldn't find it on anything else.
I
So
couldn't really find it anywhere else either. So, but it's only like $12.99 on Amazon, so that's not bad for
yeah. And if
buying a
you don't
classic
want
tale.
yeah, and if you don't want to buy it, it was like $3 to rent it.
Yeah, yeah. Londa says hi to us, and then she says
Hi,
hi to Mike.
Wanda.
We like all you guys. You guys are great.
Oh, I
But
love that we have that they always say hi. Like
yes,
I love that you guys always say hi.
I know.
Makes me feel special.
Exactly. I was trying to tell Axel, I was like, we have people who watch the show. And he's like, really? I'm like, don't be so shocked, but yes.
Rude. Be
I was like,
supportive.
we have Mike and Linda. Okay. All right. They're like, they're awesome. Okay. But I don't know. So I just got finished watching this movie. I had to watch it over the course of like 3 days because the girls kept coming over and I didn't realize how much
Mm.
screaming is in this movie until you have like a 6 and 8-year-old in the house. Then you're like, oh, I can't even watch this on like low volume because there's screaming
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
But I have to give shout out to Tara Reid. Tara Reid actually did a really good job in this movie.
Oh, she totally did. She played that part so well. I was just loving her character on this rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
And
Londa.
you're not a creeper. But like, because Tara Reid just has this like reputation of always being like the dumb blonde, and I'm like, it's what it's like she can't, she gets typecast or whatever. But I just feel like her character was you could kind of say it was a dumb blonde, but I feel like she was more than that. And I think she played it well.
Well, I feel like in this one, she was like the only one with a job out of everyone in that whole show, besides the security guard. She was the only college girl who had the job there.
Yep.
And then not only that, but her death scene was like the longest one because she kept evading the killer. Like she kept saving herself multiple times, and then finally the killer got to her. That was it. But like everyone else was easily taken out, and she was the one who just kept evading the killer. So I was like, you know what? Props, Terry. Good job.
And her lungs and her throat handled her screaming for a while. I also like her character because she had the same job as I did in college.
Yes.
Although my show wasn't a talk show, but well,
yours. Did you focus mostly on music and stuff with yours?
I mean, yeah, I had a few different shows. Like I had a couple that I did by myself that was mostly music, and obviously I'd come in just do the normal DJ stuff. I did have one show that was actually a late night Friday show with my roommates, and that one was a lot of talking, and we had a lot of people would call in with phone calls, and we'd air those and everything on those. So that one was a little bit more like, but it wasn't like advice or anything. It's Friday night, we're going crazy,
Nice.
So, but I'm just like, oh, I like watch her in her like college radio station. I'm like, oh, I remember those days.
Nice. Well, and one thing that I found was funny about her death was not funny, but you kind of had you had like the leeway into it where you had all the kids at the party, and then you hear her talk show on the radio over the loudspeaker, and there's like one song playing, and this girl just starts screaming in the song, and the one guy goes up to the main character girl, and he was like, yeah, what's cool about this is this was an actual taping of like a woman being murdered. It was like a 911 phone call. And then it like segues into Tara Reid being killed on the show, and people are hearing it. And he's the whole time he's like, this is awesome. Like, this is so good. This is so artistic.
Yeah. Well, that's actually, speaking of the whole with the Love Roller Coaster, the scream in it, like that's the one that like, it only clicked this time on this rewatch. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. Oh, that's another urban legend. Like that. And so I looked into that, and it is, I mean, it's just it's just one of the band members screaming. and the band members scream multiple times throughout the song, but that one was just a little bit more muffled.
Mm-hmm.
So there was like all these rumors flying around, like it was somebody on a 911 call, that they took a recording from a 911 call. Some people said somebody was being murdered in the studio next door, and there's just all these crazy rumors flying around about that one particular scream in the song, even though they scream in multiple places throughout the song. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, why did that never click to me that's another urban legend that they're talking about in the movie?
Well, that's what's so cool is there's so many little nods to just classic urban legends that, like you said, if you don't watch it several times, you're not going to catch all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I
And
don't know.
then with her whole death scene and her death being broadcast live, with the first time, because like everybody knows the story of War of the Worlds, and it was like a radio play when it first
Mm-hmm.
came out, but like they just kind of like went into it
Yeah.
and just were doing it, and a lot of people thought it was actually happening,
Mm-hmm.
and that they didn't realize that it was a play. And then this one was kind of like the reverse, where everybody thought she was acting, and she was actually getting killed.
Yeah. She was like, no, I legit need help.
Yeah.
And then like the poor, her poor, not co-host, but like the person back in the back room
Producer?
just straight up got murdered. Nobody knows. Nobody mentions it. Nothing happens. Just she's
Right?
just talking on the radio, cameras focusing on her, and they're just like bloop, like
I know, it's
next
just like
slice.
just all in the background. Like he didn't
Yeah,
know what was happening.
yeah. We don't even know who this character is. They're just gone.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
All
that
right.
sucks.
Bye. I won't see you in the sequel.
Right? Yeah, you won't be in the sequel. But that kind of plays into, I was reading some of the trivia on this one, and I guess so. A lot of people had problems with when this movie came out with the timing. Like, how could the main killer have, which it was Brenda, I think her name
Yeah,
was.
Brenda. No,
Yeah.
like there's absolutely no way, especially
Hmm.
the final montage of like going from finding her in the car, like first, like I mean so many things that there's just the
Yeah.
timeline, there's no way. Like she had to find another car so that she could drive at um what's the main character's name?
I don't know. I didn't really pay attention too much to her. I was having so much fun with like everyone else.
Yeah. Like so that she was like, she was driving towards her and the janitor who also played Death in Supernatural.
Yes. Yes.
And like how did she get in a car, get on the opposite side, and then after the car crash, like she supposedly had time to like get up into the tower of the abandoned dormitory, and like I mean she could have had everything else set up,
Hmm.
but she had to stage herself too, and it's just like no,
Yeah.
that timeline does not work.
Well, that's
No.
where a lot of people were kind of like one of the thoughts or theories was that the movie itself was an urban legend. Like it didn't like it, that's why there's so many inconsistencies because people like they said stories change, things
Mhm.
adapt because at the very end scene you see all those college students around talking about that legend and she's right there and she's like, let me tell you how it really happened type thing. But then you go look at the next few movies and she like confirms that she killed everyone. So
Yeah, well,
that's where it's like continuity. Like,
yeah, and in the sequel, in the next one, like that's kind of in a way that's not how it opens, but
mhm.
like they do talk about it like it's how it's already become a legend. But then like Reese, the security guard, has like, which I'm just like, okay, like poor Reese, like she goes to a completely different university and ends up having the same thing happen all over again.
Exactly. Well, speaking of Reese, right? One absolute best character of the entire freaking movie
Oh, 100%.
was her. But two, this was such a nonchalant, just kind of like a dick move on the filmmaker's part. But at the same time, I'm like, seriously, this is what they did to her? Her character is single handedly trying to stop all of this.
Mhm.
One, I don't know how big this university is, but she is the only security guard on the entire campus. And she's even like, we've had a suicide and we've had a murder and we have like this big old party. Maybe we should have some help. And the dean's like, pish posh, you know? And
Yeah, she's like, all this stuff is going on, and it is the anniversary of this huge massacre that happened.
exactly.
And she's like, and people have said some things that are concerning, and she didn't necessarily believe that the roommate's death was a suicide either. Like, she knew.
Right.
Like, she's like, I don't think that was a suicide. And I mean, it was kind of okay. So I couldn't find an urban legend about the whole way that the dean died, but I was kind of glad to see him go because I'm like, you don't care about your students. So yeah, you can die.
Well, I think with his, I'll tell his and then I'll get back to what I was talking about Reese real quick. Was
Sorry, I went off topic.
No, you're good. But with him, his urban legend was the Achilles, like slicing the heel of the tendon.
Is that
Like,
a legend though? Like,
I think so, because if you think of House of Wax, they do the same thing.
they do it in Pet Cemetery too.
Yeah. Surprisingly, with Jared Padalecki, who's also in Supernatural.
Reese is in Supernatural too.
Exactly. We can totally do 6 degrees of separation with Supernatural and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we really can.
But back with Reese, so here's the part that I was like, this, like, they did her character dirty in this, right? She goes through all this trouble. Her whole point, she just wants everyone safe. That's all she wants. She wants people safe. She wants a nice campus with a nice job and everyone safe. So she goes through all this stuff, all this investigative stuff, and she happens to find where the main character's at for this big epic final scene. She even goes and gets like a second gun. Like, that was the twist. She had a second gun. And she goes in and she's like, I'm going to save these. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to save these stupid kids. And she goes in and she saves them. She gets shot. All right. Yeah. And then she pulls out the second gun, saves them again because the first time they messed it up again. So she saves them again. And then the next scene, what do we see? The 2 main characters driving in the car. And the main thing is they're like, oh, she'll be fine. Yeah, they're like, she's fine. The paramedics are on their way. They left her.
And like, why did they leave? That was my question. I'm like, why did you guys leave? Because the last thing we saw of Brenda was she fell out a window and was on the ground, and all of a sudden, these two are in a car driving away while Reese is being left to deal with her gunshot and maybe a dead body. Like,
well, and all the bodies
thought you were safe. So why are you running away?
That's where I was like, hold up. All of the bodies, it was like this carnival of souls, like in the house of all the people who died. She found a way to get them all there. And then Reese saves everyone. And then those two just peace out. And Reese is like bleeding on the floor. Like, and they even said before in the movie, I just thought of it. They said in the movie that they were like, no one can come out because all of the people are busy right now. It's really busy right now. So they said that. So they didn't even know if the paramedics are coming.
They don't. Maybe once the paramedics knew, like maybe they called somebody, and once the paramedics knew that there was somebody that was actually shot, because before it was just like, oh, I think something's going on.
Yeah, that's
all
true.
I know though for sure is I never would have done my campus security guard that dirty.
Dude, she carried the movie. She was the only one that they were like, wait, we need a hero. Security guard.
There was like this one security guard that I got to know pretty well because she was the late night security guard. She would like walk you back and forth across campus, and she was awesome. Like, everybody on campus knew her, everybody loved her. So to me, like, that's who I equivalent like Reese to, and I'm like, I never would have done Nancy that dirty. Never.
Oh, Nancy. Was her last name Drew? Because that would be
awesome. I have no idea what her last name was actually, but
gotcha.
I mean, yeah, but I'm just like, especially if Nancy had done something like that for me, if she had like taken a bullet for me.
Yeah.
Oh, she's fine. The paramedics are coming.
And she's like, I thought I was going to have to be a cop before I got shot. It's like, nope, just a solo security guard with a bunch of jerks on campus. That's all you needed.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, poor
But
Reese.
let's talk about the urban legends in this one. Like, okay, so we've got the hitchhiker or the hatchet man.
Yeah, it starts with the killer in the backseat.
Mm-hmm.
And
we've got
I
The,
have a
the
whole list. I wrote them
oh
down.
yeah, no, okay. If you got it, I was like trying to go off the top of my head, but no, go
No,
for it.
okay. So, so I kind of like separated my list because I'm a nerd. And so I have the first part of my list is the ones that they kind of mention and talk about, but don't actually play super into the plot. Like there's no deaths associated with them. And I included the Legend of Stanley Hall, which is, I mean, it is part of the plot. Obviously, it's a big thing, and it's a urban legend just in the movie. But I think that so many campuses have legends like that that it definitely is worth just mentioning for that. They mentioned Bloody Mary. They mentioned the call is in the house, like the whole babysitter thing. And then the love roller coaster with the scream, which we already talked about that one a little bit.
Yep.
And then for the deaths, we have the killer in the back seat. Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light? The hook comes in. The high beam gang initiation. The dog in the microwave, which is like the saddest one ever.
It was.
Pop rocks and soda, which is your favorite. And then like being killed on air. I think we talked about that one a little bit too. And then the kidney heist, where you wake up. She didn't wake up in an ice tub, but they actually used that one in the second one too, and she did wake up in a bath of ice in that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that was me a couple weeks ago when I ended up in Mexico with my surgery.
I'm pretty sure you didn't wake up in a bathtub full of ice.
No,
but
I didn't.
they gave you good drugs to like numb the pain.
Exactly.
They're like, you don't need ice. We're going to give you actual drugs to numb the pain.
Well, what Krystal was talking about with my favorite urban legend, it was not by choice that this is a well-known urban legend for me. And the person behind what this or why this happened is right next to me, right that way.
I don't know what you're talking about. I would never do such a thing.
Just to fill you guys in. Oh, I don't even know what movie we were watching. We were watching some scary movie. Yeah, some movie in the theater. And of course, we were like the annoying teenagers just giggling throughout the movie. And this fool over here decides to put Pop Rocks in my soda and not tell me. And but like you didn't even just like put them in my soda. You kind of put them down the straw too. So they didn't start popping until I sipped the soda.
Yep.
Like that was like ninja skills right there. And next thing I know, it's like a quiet scene in the movie, and I go take the sip of the soda, and it's also my mouth is just pop, 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 and I'm like, what? Like freaking out. And she's right there, what she's doing right now. She is dying right next to me.
Because it was hilarious.
I'm like, and people around us are like,
out of your seat.
I did.
And screamed, and it definitely wasn't a scary part of the movie.
It was like the scene explaining stuff. They're just driving in the car, they're quiet, and I'm like, ah! Like freaking.
That will never.
But my insides are just fine. My organs are just fine.
Living proof that it's a false legend.
It is a we don't need Snopes for that one. We know.
No. I mean, yeah, we definitely don't need a disproving of that one. But that one has been around longer than I realized because, you know, like I've always known it as going back to like the Mikey commercials, which I remember watching those commercials in the 80s. So to me, that's like, oh, that's when it came around. But it's really been around since like at least 76. And apparently the FDA had to set up a hotline for parents because like, so the candy's carbonated, which is why it pops. That's how they get it there. Just in case you didn't know. So, but a lot of parents thought it had like an acid and base mixture, kind of like if you mix vinegar and baking soda. So they were scared that like just eating the Pop Rocks itself, or especially mixing it with soda, but they were like scared that just by doing that like their kids could choke, it could cause issues in their stomachs and do all these things to it. So the FDA actually set up a hotline to tell parents, no, they're safe. They just have some they just have some CO2 in there.
Right. It's CO2. You're fine. You'll just be a bit gassy.
So, and Mike says since Pop Rocks first came out, which I'm guessing is mid 70s, because That's what I found was it's been around since like 76.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the Mythbusters, they also tried to disprove that one, which I could have told them that it was false because we did our experiment that you were an unwilling participant
Yeah,
in.
I was totally fine. Physically,
We did our
psychologically.
experiment. Yeah. Like we did our experiment way before Mythbusters did, but they had
I
to
like how you say we.
you were an active participant. You were the most
Yes, I was. I was very active.
I mean, obviously I knew it wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah.
I never believed that, but
Mike has a good point. I'd be more worried about swallowing a bunch of Mentos and then some soda because that does explode sometimes.
yeah. I don't know what would happen in your stomach because, like, whenever you drop the Mentos in the diet soda, they're whole. I wonder if being chewed changes it. But yeah, that would be way.
Maybe.
I don't think I want to try that experiment though.
I don't know. I just imagine projectile vomiting.
Probably.
And I feel like that wouldn't be fun. Londa tried it too.
See, Londa gets it. Londa, did you do it to somebody without them knowing? Because that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, Londa, were you aware that you were trying it at the time? Although with the soda, yeah, I can imagine coming out your nose and that would burn. It would burn so hard.
With the Mentos or with the Pop Rocks? I don't think the soda came out your nose.
No, I think with the Mentos, like it would just projectile.
Oh, you probably like projectile vomiting like out your nose, and it's like minty and carbony, so like or bubbly, whatever.
I'm sure your eyes would tear up. It would just burn like crazy. You would probably have zero congestion issues for like the longest time.
Kind of like if you eat a ball of wasabi.
Yeah, why? But yeah.
I mean, I don't know, just to see if you can.
Mike did the Pop Rocks like that back in the 70s.
I mean, yeah, it's fun to experiment with Pop Rocks.
Yeah.
You never sat next to me in a movie again for like.
I don't think I did.
Like at least for a year.
I always put one of our other friends in between us. I'm like, yeah, you do to her what you did to me, and you never did. I was the one.
I mean, it wasn't new after the first time. You know?
Well, I think out of all of the legends on this movie, I'm not gonna lie, the don't turn on the light was kind of my favorite one. Mm-hmm. Just because it was like an entire subplot. Like there's a whole another character with I think it was a Tosh. So yeah, so she was a total different subplot that I thought was pretty fun. So yeah. Well, the don't turn off the light.
And it's like that thing like Krystal. I love it.
Oh, look. My dad is standing up for me. Look at that. Sounds like a fun experiment on here.
See, I mean, your dad's on my side, so obviously there's nothing wrong with it.
See, I sense sarcasm in that.
No, I don't think he's sarcastic. Your dad likes a good joke.
He does. But with the don't turn on the light, I feel like that one just kind of plays into your fear of the dark and not knowing what's going on.
Yeah, thing. I think it plays into that, and then just like also plays into the whole thing of like, you know, when you're young, whether you're in college or not, like you're having a roommate, and a lot of times, like I said, whether you're in college or not, you might have to like actually share a room with somebody, and you're at that age where you don't know what somebody's doing in the dark, and if you've accidentally walked in on them seeing something that you don't want to see before, you're just like, I'm not going to turn on the light. I know what you're doing. I don't need to see that. Like, so it just plays into the whole like, oh, I already know what's going on, and then it's like, oh, but do you really? Do you actually know what's happening in the dark? You never do.
Yeah. Now, here's a question for all the people who stayed in a dorm. So like you or anyone else who stayed, I never stayed in a dorm, so I don't have that experience. But wouldn't you have like I would think you would have like a code with your roommate, like the sock on the drawer or something on
the
the
sock
doorknob.
On the door, like, I think is like the common one.
Yeah. Or like something like, hey, come back in like 20 or whatever.
Yeah,
Like
I think
just
I know we didn't do a sock on the door. I really only had one roommate that was ever like even a concern.
mhm.
When I was living in the dorm, but like I think because we had like dry erase boards, so we had like a certain thing that we would put on the dry erase board and be like,
Yeah.
I'm coming back later.
Yeah. You're like
Like,
avocado. Okay. All right. 30 minutes. I'll be back.
yeah. Yeah. So like I definitely never walked in on a roommate doing things I didn't want to see. And I'm very
Yeah.
thankful for that. Um, but yeah, but definitely we had a way to know in case something was happening. So
Hmm. Yeah. Londa said she thought it was extra weird that she just came in and went to sleep.
I mean, I guess if you have like a roommate that is very just doesn't care, because Tasha
Mhm.
obviously didn't care. She
Yeah.
gave sorry to say this in front of you, Dan, but she gave no fucks. Um she was just like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and this is what's going to happen. And if you walk in on it, even though I gave you no forewarning, it's 100% your fault.
Yeah.
So she just didn't care about other people. And I think that that's kind of like how it played into that whole situation where it's like, okay, you have this person that doesn't care, you have this person that is going to get mad at you, so eventually you just get to the point where you're just like, I just have to deal with it, put on my headphones and go to sleep, because
Hmm.
it's not going to change. And the thing that was weird to me about it is I don't think they were freshmen, so it surprised me that she would have had a roommate that she had like no, like she didn't get to choose or anything like that, because
Yeah.
really past your freshman year you usually get more of a choice of who's going to be your roommate.
To be fair, this college apparently only had one security guard, so maybe it's just not big
True.
enough that you can choose your
You just get who
roommate.
you
They're
get.
like, we're just excited people came back. So here's
Right.
your roommate.
Yeah. And then with the whole what's happening in the dark one, another one that like another urban legend that ties into that one is the whole, the dog licking your hand in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that one's basically the same thing, just a little bit different. But
Yeah,
yeah, humans can lick too.
that is true. We'll talk about that one on another show.
Yeah.
Maybe a late night episode.
Whoa, I'm still just talking about she thought it was a dog.
That's what I was talking about. Lana said that was the one that scared me the most.
I get
But
that.
that kind of ties in, like the one that creeps me out, that not creeps me, I shouldn't say creeps me out, but just as like a person in the car, is that very first opening scene one, the one in the back seat. Because how many of us, like honestly, as soon as the second you get in your car, do you check your back seat?
Oh, I check my backseat before I get in my car.
Exactly. Like as you walk by, you're looking in the back seat. And then even when you get in the back seat, I'm like feeling around.
Mm-hmm.
And then what creeps me out is when the girls like accidentally leave a stuffed animal back there that I don't know about. My hand touches something. Oh, heart attack.
You're just like, what's happening?
It's like Minnie Mouse. I'm like, like yelling all these things at this Minnie Mouse.
Yeah. And oh my gosh.
Londa.
I mean, yeah. You're just like, well, especially if your dog doesn't normally do that, then it's like,
Exactly.
that's weird.
Or if you don't have a dog. Yeah.
Yeah, I would really freak out. The other day, I actually did have my hand hanging down from the bed, and Olive came out from underneath the bed and like rubbed herself on my hand, and it very much surprised me. I was like, "What's
Oh.
happening?" I didn't know she was under the bed. Like,
Oh gosh.
but yeah, with the killer in the back seat, and like the gas attendant, like what he did was great. And in a lot of the
Yeah.
times that you hear that urban legend, the gas attendant does that exact same thing and he ends up saving her. But then this
Mm-hmm.
one, like because of his stutter that he had, like she was just like, nope, bye, you're creepy. Which
Yep.
I mean, which made me think, I was like, well, if he had, instead of just having the phone off the hook, if he had called 911, like maybe she would have been saved. But of course, that's the opening kill scene. So you can't
Or write it down.
Right? He could have
Like,
written it down
write it down.
before she ever got in there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And just special shout out to the actor because he's a pretty well known. He was in Chucky, right? Wasn't he the voice of Chucky?
I think so. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, him and then Robert Edlund being in there. Like that's kind of Mr. Freddy himself.
Right.
Speaking of classic movies, we got Mike on here talking about the movie that made me not leave my arm hanging over the bed was Friday the 13th when they shoved the arrow through the bed. Oh, Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I can see that. And then of course you have when Johnny Depp got eaten by a bed in
Yep.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep. We should just do like an episode on just first in a lot of those movies, like the first movies in a lot of those. I think that would be kind of fun.
Oh, just like an episode that's like straight up about the first movie and like big franchises.
Yeah, or we could break off into franchises. I don't know. What we could just see what everyone else wants. I don't know. Wanda and Mike, what do you guys want to listen to?
Yeah. Yeah, you two definitely get opinions in this one.
Yeah. Do you want the whole franchise? You want the first? We can break it up in so many different ways.
Yeah. Talk about the first death in like all the horror movies. Just the first death.
Yep. Mike says I had a waterbed for 30 years.
You know, my brother had a waterbed when we were kids, and I never like I jumped on it sometimes and he would yell at me.
Yeah.
But I would just like I've always wondered what it'd be like to sleep on a waterbed. Not enough to buy one though.
Yeah. Every time I think of waterbed, I think of X-Files and the body switch episode where David Duchovny switches bodies with this other guy who's just like plain Jane. And so when David Duchovny wakes up, he has like a waterbed and like all this stuff. And he's like, huh, what happened?
Right?
And it like springs a leak later on in another episode.
I feel, yeah. I mean, I always think of, when I think of waterbeds, I think of the kid that killed his 8-year-old neighbor and stored her under the mattress in the waterbed.
Oh, because it would just kind of mold around her body, huh?
Yeah, but they found her because of the smell.
Oh, yeah. I mean, figured. Londa says she has had a waterbed when Nightmare came out.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think waterbeds are fun, but I feel like I don't know if I could sleep on one because I already have enough issues sleeping that the movement might wake. And I move a lot in my sleep.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's totally off topic.
I'm like, I just need the back support. There's no back support on a waterbed.
Yeah. That's what I've heard. I've never experienced it, so I don't have an opinion on that. But
yeah. So with some of the other legends in there, I think the phone call coming from inside the house, that one's in so many movies.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, I think that's what our next episode is going to be, right? Just focusing on that. Or is that what we're doing next time?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
But
I didn't mean to segue into that just now, but yeah, I guess so. I'm gonna let you talk real quick. I have to plug in my laptop.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. As I'm about to do that, my dad pops up. What? We had a waterbed from a dead guy.
I need more information about that.
Do tell. Hold on. I need to plug in my
Yeah, you plug in and but with the caller inside the house, that's definitely one that goes back a long time, like back to the 50s. A lot of times it does include, a babysitter, and it's just the whole, like, it's again the whole unknown and like going into where you feel safe and completely destroying that, because you're supposed to be safe when you're inside your home. And it's like, well, no, I'm not safe because there's a killer calling me inside my house. Where am I going to go?
Not safe.
Like going outside, who knows what can happen outside? So it's just like, what are you supposed to do in that case? And actually, to tie in some true crime here, I don't think he called them, but Ted Bundy, when he went into the sorority house, he just kind of like walked his way in there, and he was hiding there. So it's just like they had, and like some of the sisters, like they saw him walk out. Nobody thought anything of it because it's like, oh, it's just some guy visiting one of the sorority sisters. So it was like the danger was like right there inside the house, and like nobody realized it until later.
Yeah.
So
Oh, Dad's explaining it. He
Oh,
goes,
good.
one of our guys died in a helicopter crash and we ended up buying it from his wife. Wow. Okay. When was this? That story just keeps getting darker.
I mean, I can understand why she probably didn't want the bed anymore. I
can understand that too. Yeah.
I feel like I'd be wanting to get rid of. I would just be like, I can't sleep in this bed anymore because it's the bed that I shared with my now dead husband.
Yeah. Oh, this was in Okinawa. Okay, all right. I wasn't born yet, so I was not in this bed. At least.
Are you
Lana
sure?
says at least he didn't die in it.
I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, oh, did he die in the bed?
No, that's what I was thinking. I'm all, hold up. I'm like, I know Mom would not go for that. Mike, it looks like you tried to do a comment, didn't quite go through, so we'll see if we can get it through here soon. But yeah, I mean, how do you post that? You're just like, hey, used bed, only one death involved. Like half off.
Used bed, nobody died in it. I
Yeah,
swear.
nobody died in it next to it. But oh my goodness. But what's some of the other legends that we had in there? We talked about
The dog in the microwave, which actually the dog in the microwave one, I was looking into that because like the whole putting a small pet into the microwave, you know, some old lady not realizing what she was doing, that obviously goes back to like microwaves. But there's actually been
microwaves.
I mean, what, 60s, 70s?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. But what I thought was interesting about that one is there's been similar stories around for a long time. Like back in like even back to like the 1800s, there's a Russian urban legend actually about a woman that she had her kid, like a very young kid, baby toddler age, and had him in a tub, and it was one of those tubs that you would put like over a fire to, you know, because it was the 1800s. And she
you would put it over the fire? I thought they like boiled the water and then poured it in the tub.
If you were rich, probably.
Oh.
But because you'd have somebody to do it for you. Or, I mean, I'm sure it depended on different things, but no, this would be like a smaller tub that would fit a kid, and you would just have it like over the fire because that's so much easier. You just have it like right there, you know? So you had it over the fire, and she blew the fire out or whatever. Her kid was still in the tub and it was warm. And then she went out, like the neighbor needed something. So she went out to talk to the neighbor for a few minutes, and the wind kicks up, ends up stirring up the flames on the fire again. This is a super small kid that can't physically get themselves out of the tub. So by the time,
even know what's going on.
Yeah. You know, so by the time, you know, the neighbor distracts her, by the time she comes in, she thinks that the kid is going to be fine, but her kid basically was boiled alive because the fire kicked back up.
Oh man.
So it's like, you think it's like this super modern urban legend, but it's really not. It's gone back like hundreds of years. So I thought that that was pretty interesting. I never knew about that.
That is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
It's always like an innocent death, though. That's what's rough. I kind of skipped past this part of the scene in the movie because I was like, nope, I can watch people die, no problem. But you get like a dog or like a kid or something, I'm like, can't do
it. Whenever I know that an animal death is coming, I'm like, what can I do right now to distract myself? Oh, my drink's low. I'm going to go refill my beverage. Because I don't want to see the dead dog explode into the microwave.
Let me go wash my hair real quick. I'll be back.
Which is why, yeah, it's always like, if I'm watching something new and I'm like, oh my gosh, is something going to happen to this dog? I'm like, I can't. No.
And then kind of with that one, it was all done to the one guy who I just know him as the guy from Sorority Boys.
Gosh, I haven't seen that movie in forever.
I know.
Which guy is that?
So he was the one who hosted the party. He was dating Tara Reid.
Got it. Yeah, he's the guy with the dog. Okay.
Yeah, the guy with the dog. So with his death, like right after he finds the dog, then he goes running upstairs. So he had the phone call coming in the house. He had the dead dog, and then his actual death, which was the drinking Drano
with the Pop
type
Rocks. They
thing.
put Pop
Yeah.
Rocks in his mouth. Yeah, they like combined too with his
Yeah.
death.
Like he got all of it. And his
I
death
know.
was like the fastest one too. Like it was just like all this stuff happening.
Yeah, it was like a whole bunch of things that happened all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he wasn't like a super nice guy. I mean, he was a typical frat guy.
Yeah.
And that's not to say like typical frat guys are jerks, just like
Typical movie frat guy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, because I'm not trying to insult anybody that's ever been in a fraternity. Because most of the people I know that have been in fraternities are not that guy. Very much a typical movie frat guy.
Yeah, the movie slasher house frat guy. That's
Yep.
going to get a crazy death.
Yeah. And he was very much like kind of not involved in the rest of it, except for the fact that he knew everybody else.
Yeah. Well, and this was what was kind of fun because they didn't care who they killed. They killed everybody. Like Joshua Jackson's character, and I was actually kind of surprised, although there was like that fun little thing where he hops into the car and the music that's playing is that I Don't Want to Wait song, which was the Dawson's Creek.
Oh yes. Yeah, that makes
and he's like, ooh, like,
and he's like, no. Yeah. Because this came out when Dawson's Creek was huge.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a fun little
and then he was the
hook.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously no Hook killer was involved in that, but that's definitely like his death is very much Hookman legend.
Yep. So which was our first episode.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Actual episode, but
yeah. Yeah. So that was and it was the little twist in it was the whole he was tied to the car. So as she tried to drive away, like she was hanging him.
It was hanging him more and more.
Yeah.
So, and then the thing that got me was Wexler, when they killed Wexler, the professor.
Mm-hmm.
But like, here's the thing. It was like suddenly he was dead. And the girls were like, oh, it smells in this car. And then they find him. And obviously it was to frame Jared Leto's character.
Yep.
But then they're back in that car. And my question is, does Jared Leto ever know that he was in the back of his car? Because remember at the end of the movie, he hops in and then him and the girl are driving back when they're like, oh, the paramedics are coming for Reese, right?
And Wexler's body was probably still in his car at that point.
Yeah, like nobody. So the poor guy who got framed still has a dead body in the back of his car.
I mean, but at that point, they know who did it and they know she was trying to frame people. So they could explain it away at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he never like, and he's like, oh, I didn't notice the smell. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like you get nose blindness in certain situations. But if there's something rotting in the back of your car, you're going to notice.
So here's what's interesting is one, it could be maybe just, people have different senses of smell as well. And I don't think he was dead long enough to be rotting, but maybe more of like loose bowel movements or something.
I mean, because this does happen in just like a few days. So unless it was really hot, he probably wasn't decomposing that much.
Yeah. Londa's like, the girl's like, I told you, he's all yours.
and she's the one that freaking planted the body.
I know. But with the smells, I actually remember reading a story just recently about a woman who was a hoarder. And did you hear that one?
I know stories about hoarders, but
okay. So her husband went missing like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And they finally found him because of the smell. And I guess he had committed suicide in the closet, but because she was a hoarder, or they were hoarders, even when the police checked the house like twice, nobody found him because it was just so packed.
It's actually not super common for there to be a human body. Although I have heard a story about another hoarder that her son that hadn't been seen in 2 years, his body was found. But it's actually super common in hoarding houses to find bodies of pets especially like with animal hoarders. And because animal hoarders, they're hoarding animals, but they're usually hoarding other things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like they'll find bodies of pets, rats, like yeah, they just have these bodies that like decompose around them. And I don't know if there's just so many smells going on, but I feel like in a hoarding house, there's so many smells. I've been in
Yeah.
hoarding houses.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many smells. And I'm reading a book right now about hoarders. One of my coworkers gave it to me because we deal with hoarders sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like the things that they find in those houses is insane. So it's not super surprising that there'd be dead bodies in a hoarding house because there's
Right.
so many other smells going on. But in a car, there's usually not, unless it's
Yeah.
a hoarded car.
Now, to be fair, this was a college guy's car.
True. The car looked pretty clean.
We just saw the top. We didn't see the bottom.
Okay, that's fair. He might have had fast food wrappers all over the floor.
Right.
That's very true.
And he was a journalist, so he might have just been, sometimes like when they do stakeout. Well, I don't know if they do stake. I'm sure they do stakeouts when they're trying to get a story and
Yeah.
see like when people are moving, doing stuff. Like he seemed like the type of person who was much more into what was going on around him versus what he was leaving around him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, my car is nowhere like this at all anymore, thankfully. But like early 20s, I was working 3 jobs. I often was changing clothes in my car, as this was very dangerous. I don't recommend doing it. I would change at stoplights because I was like, I'm going from one job to the next, have to change.
I mean, they're pretty long, so it's fine.
Put the car in park, change my pants.
That's a skill, right?
And yeah. And so I was eating meals in my car a lot too. And I mean, I just had so much stuff in my car all the time. I definitely had stuff in there that probably was there for way longer than it should have been.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't notice those smells at the time. So that's kind of fair.
Yeah, Dad goes lots of air fresheners.
I'm glad I'm beyond that point in my life. Definitely, if there was something in my car now, I would notice. But
yeah, now I'm like, who ate in my car? Like, which kid snuck something out of their lunch bag in my car right now? Because they're always like, because they know they're not supposed to eat in the car because they spill it everywhere. And it's like, we got like a 5-minute drive home. You can wait. But every now and then you hear like a little crinkle of something. And I'm like, who's eating? And you just hear a giggle. And I'm like, that's not what I want to hear right now. Like, that giggle is so just ominous right now.
It just admits guilt.
Exactly. Because I know what I packed you and none of that is good for the car.
I mean,
Mike says, you waited too long with the garbage is starting to come over the back seat into the
thankfully,
front.
I never had that happen.
Although, fortunately, if that did happen, you wouldn't have to worry about someone in your back seat because you would hear them crinkling.
There's too much trash. They can't fit back there.
So you're good on that urban legend.
It's like, hey, you want to kill me from my back seat? Can you handle the smell of rotting French fries?
Exactly. Rotting French fries. Well, let's see. What were some of the other legends that happened in that movie? We had the
well, there's the kidney heist, which is how Brenda planned on killing the main character.
Yeah,
was by doing that, but she never got to do it.
Yeah. Well, and then the legend that started this whole thing, which is the legend that killed her boyfriend, the gang initiation of the lights.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that one was, I don't know. I never heard too much about that one, but I know it's like basically if you flash your lights, if you have your lights off and then someone coming down flashes you, and then suddenly that's the person you're supposed to go after and like beat them up or something like that.
Yeah, depending on the version of the legend, beat up or kill. That one actually goes back. So I did, because I was curious, because like I feel like everybody knows that legend, but I definitely looked into that one a little bit because I was like, where did that come from? And it looks like basically it came from Montana, and it was first linked to the Hells Angels motorcycle gang. So it wasn't just any gang. It was a gang that was like, their whole thing is vehicles. So,
well, but they're always on motorcycles, mostly.
Yeah, but you can drive a motorcycle without any headlight.
Yeah, that's true.
And that would be super dangerous.
Mike says he lived in Central California, and it was a true fact on the gangbangers going after you with the headlights.
Yeah, Mike, who do you know that got killed that way? Just asking. Because that's the whole thing. Everybody knows. Oh, it was true. Because we heard that in Arizona, too.
Mm-hmm.
We totally heard that in Arizona.
But like, here's the thing: a lot of these, like that legend is like in a central, like a big city, right? But
Yeah,
then
pretty
at the
much always
same time, how are they going to pinpoint which car it is? Because I don't know about you, but like the streets are always like packed pretty well.
But if you're like if it's late at night or you're on a less traveled road, which can happen even in big cities,
Mm-hmm.
like, um, there's always, and there's always like that one area, like we had, like Tucson isn't huge, but it's still like 1 million people. So it's still a good sized city,
Mm-hmm.
and
But it's
like
very rural too.
yeah, it definitely has its rural areas. And like what I'm thinking about is like Dead Man's Curve. Like that's in the city, but it's a very rural looking area.
Yeah, that's true.
And so like if somebody was driving down, and that would be a bad road to drive down without headlights on, you
Yeah.
know? Yep, the Bloods and the Crips. That's what you always hear. I heard the
Yeah.
same thing, Mike. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying, okay, so you did know people that
Several cars that got shot up. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but
Well,
it's
and it's
always
not like it has to be related to just one
yeah,
gang.
it
Like,
never has to be. And there's definitely nothing saying that gangs aren't going to take cues from urban legends, because they're like, oh, I heard this gang's doing it. Maybe we
mhm.
should do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like the most realistic of the urban legends in the movie,
Probably.
I feel like.
Well, and who didn't do that? Like what the girls did where they were just playing around. Now,
Mhm.
I never actually like turned my car around and chased someone regarding it, but sometimes like as a stupid teenager, you would turn the lights off every now and then, or you would like flash the car. Now it's like a totally different thing when you flash the car, because mine, when I flash the car, it's because I think they have their brights on and they have like
Mhm.
those stupid new lights that are super bright,
I
and
hate
then
those
they flash
lights.
their
Oh my
real
god.
brights at me.
Those, like, especially just having light colored eyes, like your eyes are so much more light sensitive. And I know you get
Mhm.
this too, because like you have the blue eyes, like we both have light colored eyes. And it's just like those new lights just hurt my eyes so much. But I would
Yeah,
never flash my lights at somebody with that, because I'm like, what if they flash their brights back at me and they're even worse?
exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, I stopped after like the third time when I realized that those were the actual lights of the car. Because at first, like you didn't know anything about it, and then suddenly you were like, "Oh, their light, like their brights are on." You flash them, and then they flash their brights, and you're like, "Oh, that wasn't the brights." Okay,
You're like, I'm blind.
I know.
I'm going to crash into a tree now.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me just I have to go to work tomorrow. That's fine. But
Free
like
day off
Mike
from work.
said,
You
yeah,
got into a car accident.
the Bloods and Crips in his town did not need a reason to shoot their guns. You know, they would just fight for any reason they could think of. But like,
I mean, very true. Very true.
yeah, he goes, the entire reason he left California in 94 on Thanksgiving night, a Blood gang member fired 50 rounds into the AM/PM mini mart. We're at work. I gave my notice the next day at work and moved 2 months later to Arkansas. So,
Mike, I'm just going to say this. The fact that you worked at a gas station at night, I have mad respect for you.
and, yeah,
Like, I honestly do. My nephew worked at a gas station for a while, and he, like, one night I was talking to him, he's like, yeah, we got robbed again tonight. Like, it
yeah,
was just such a common thing for him. And then my brother currently works overnight security at a gas station. And I've had another brother that worked overnight at a gas station. I'm just like, no,
yeah.
like, so much respect for anybody that works night shifts at a gas station in any way, because it's crazy crap happens.
Mm-hmm.
So much crazy crap happens. So,
Of
yeah.
course, we're learning more stuff about Mike. I'm like, dang. I'm like, what's
I
your
know.
story, Mike? We need to have you on the show.
I know. Hey, Mike, you want to do a show with us? I think you have interesting stories.
Exactly. We'll get Mike and Londa on.
Yes, I definitely
Well,
think both of
we got to
them
do that.
at some point. They're always
Well,
here
we're,
anyway,
I know.
and I love them for that.
Exactly. Mike says he got robbed on average once a week for 2 years after I left California. The district attorney paid for me to come back and testify in trials. Wow. Mike, you got like such a life.
I mean, at least they paid for you to come back because, I mean,
Exactly.
they should have,
Yeah.
but
Londa says sounds like chaos to me.
I mean,
Is that Mike's stories or being on the show with us?
both.
It could be both. Well, we are coming up on our hour mark. Anything else you want to talk about with the movie at all, or with the urban legends in there?
I mean, I definitely just think well, we kind of went off on a bunch of tangents tonight. Thank you guys for still listening. But no, I definitely agree. Like with this one, like the way that they integrated so many urban legends, and even just like sometimes in the conversation, I just think that they did a really good job of it.
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of wish that the Dean's death had been a little bit more urban legend related,
Yeah.
but I watched this. I watched the sequel again, just just because, and that one, like they talk about the urban legends, but there were so few actual urban legend deaths in that one. It
Mm-hmm.
made me appreciate the amount of urban death legends in this one again. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I liked it. I mean, I just think it's a classic movie, and yeah, I think that's all I can say. I mean, I could
Yeah.
say more, but I won't.
Well, we'll do an episode on some more of the movies, see if we can get some more people on just to kind of talk about, because that's kind of like some of the classic horror movies too. Like it's just an overshadowed classic
Oh.
franchise.
Yeah, I think
So
so. I think you're right. Like I never thought about it too much before, but I do think that this one kind of got put on the back burner to Scream. And
mhm.
Scream's a classic too, like totally a classic.
Yeah.
But I do think that this one, like, it really did have a lot going for it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I'm I don't know. I really like the movie. I just rewatched it again. Like I said, the last few days and stuff. But yeah, I actually have not seen the others in the series, but I think it's because I just didn't know there were others in the series. Like they I think they went direct to video.
Yeah.
So,
Well, something that surprised me about the sequel, which I hadn't seen the sequel in years. I think I had seen it one time before. And there's like a Bloody Mary one. I didn't rewatch that one because
mhm.
whatever. That one's, but with the sequel, there's so many big names in that one too.
Yeah.
Ava Mendez is in it, Joey
Oh.
Lawrence. Um, I can't think of her name, but the girl that played Snow White in Once Upon a Time. Like,
Oh, Jennifer Goodwin? Is that No, no,
no,
no,
not the
that's the
girl
other
that
one.
played Snow White.
Yeah.
I don't know. She was the blonde one. Emma Swan. That's who she played in Once Upon a Time. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Okay.
The girl that played Zoe from How I Met Your Mother. I think she's the same person, but
Okay.
that's also
Nice.
yeah, so there's just like I was just surprised at like how many and the guy that played Warner from Legally Blonde, he was in that one too.
Oh, okay, okay.
Wanda, I
Yeah.
think that would be good chaos. I
Yeah.
think that would be fantastic chaos.
Well, we'll definitely plan something to get Londa and Mike on. But we also want to hear too if anyone has urban legends that they want us to talk about. I know we kind of picked some of the classic ones, but eventually we're going to run out of them. So if people have like local legends they want to look into, or campfire stories, or anyone they want us to interview or bring on as a special guest, I know that we are open to suggestions on stuff.
Mhm.
But Krystal, you kind of took over another podcast too, right?
Yes, I'm taking over Murders, Mysteries, and Mayhem. So that is a once a month um, true crime podcast. I'll be taking that over next month.
Nice.
So yeah, it'll be. It's also on the Weird Realities Network, which I know if there's so much stuff on this network. Tomorrow they do or not tomorrow, on Fridays
Mm-hmm.
they do the Weird Awakenings, which is always fun. They talk about a bunch of different stuff on that, and then on Thursdays they do have I can't think of the name of the show, but they talk about movies, which
Yes.
is what we
Watch
did
it,
tonight.
right?
But Watching Weird. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, Yeah, so I mean, there's so much stuff on the Weird Realities Network that's always so, definitely look into if you like our podcast, you'll like other stuff on the network.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so next month I'm going to be starting the true crime. So I don't know what we're talking about yet, but I'll update everybody once we know.
You're good. Well, it's well deserved. You will do awesome at that.
If you guys haven't noticed, I'm into true crime.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Londa says, Mike and I are there.
I appreciate it.
All right. Well, that is it for Blonde's Books and Campfire Tales tonight. We are glad to have everyone with us. And hopefully we'll catch Brandy on another episode, but totally understandable. You got kids, stuff happens.
Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah, so she'll come back. She loved being on the show last week, and I know that she'll have a lot to contribute on another episode. So
we'll definitely follow, leave a comment, let us know what you guys want to hear about on this show, who you want to see on it, what you want to hear talking about, and we will definitely follow up. But other than that, thanks for joining us. Good show tonight, Krystal.
Good show tonight, Bethany. Look out for those pop rocks in your drink tonight.
Yeah.
Absolutely have gotten ideas from me.
I'm just nope. He went to the gym. He does not watch this. All right, you guys have a good rest of your night, and we will see you in 2 weeks to talk about the phone call coming from inside your house.
Yep.
All right, bye.